I've met all of you, so you all know I'm Christopher from the College Planning Center, College Mountain Consulting as well. But I'm going to go through a few things here for you to talk about affording college, financing college. That's something that keeps parents up at night and things that students don't consider as much as they should sometimes when they're looking at the schools they're going to look at. A lot of students stress out about getting into college, but the parents are stressing out in the background about paying for college when they get into college. What we try to do here at the College Planning Center is we try to design a list that's going to alleviate those concerns. So we base the list on the student's profile and the way and that profile fits up with the schools that are going to give them hopefully the most money based on their profile. In other words, if I take a certain student and that student was looking at Harvard, that would be outside of his or her profile. But if that student was looking at maybe High Point, that's within their profile, and they're going to qualify for money at that school, then they might not even get into the other one. And if they did, they definitely wouldn't get scholarship money from that school. Now, I was talking to you earlier on about this kind of the pie here. This is the kind of way it breaks down. If you're looking at the scholarship money that's offered out there, you're looking at the scholarship breakdown, you have the federal government, that 40%, that's determined by your financial situation. Most people won't even qualify for that 40%. That 40% would be people to Pell Grants, people that show extreme financial need would fit in that 40%. But this over here, and my little pointer's not going to work on the TV, but the 35% that the colleges offer, that's the piece of the pie you really want to get. That's school specific. That is the money that's the majority of the money, and that's the four-year money too. Because the private scholarships over here that are only 7%, that's that money you hear people talking about, that all this money goes unclaimed every year, and there's all this money out there that if you get in, you can find this money. That's only 7% of the money, and that is not four-year money most of the time. Meaning that you have to apply every year for that scholarship again. And there's no guarantee you'll get it. And even if you do get it, the majority of the scholarships are $500, $1,000, maybe $1,500. Whereas this money over here may be $10,000 a year for 4 years. That's going to be the big money. That's the money you want to go after. And that's the one that can make the biggest difference. I'm not saying not apply to the private scholarships, but you want to be reasonable about that. You want to be reasonable knowing that what is the best way for me to expend my time if I know I'm this kind of student. Am I going to be really competitive enough with these scholarships where I may apply to 30 scholarships and get 30 rejections, or get 30 times and not get that scholarship? In other words, there's not a return on investment every time you do this. You could really kill yourself applying for all these scholarships and not get any of them. Whereas if you target the right schools, I can guarantee, based on your profile, you're going to get a certain amount of money, X amount of money. And that money is going to be four-year money, and it's better money. Now, the state government's scholarships, those are things like the Palmetto Scholarship, the Life Scholarship. That's money that's determined also by merit as well. You know exactly what I'm talking about. You have to have a certain GPA, certain class rank, test scores, and those things will determine that money. Right now, the Life Scholarship is about $5,500 a year for 4 years. The Palmetto, which is the highest one we have, is about $7,500 a year for 4 years, or approximately that much. And those are determined by, like I said, class rank, GPA. There's three criteria you have to meet. If you don't meet one criteria, then there's a way to do it, but you have to have a higher test score if you don't meet all three criteria. Whereas, let's say the test score is a 27 for the ACT for the Palmetto. Well, you might have to have a 30 if you don't have the class rank to go along with it. So that's like a sliding scale based on your test score and your grades. Okay. Most people want to know if they're going to qualify for financial aid. What are they going to qualify for? And that's something that parents want to consider early on. The EFC calculators, and you write this down, you can go onto Google and type in EFC calculator. This is a really important thing for parents to figure out early on. Your EFC is slang for estimated family contribution. I know that sounds really technical, but that determines what the schools and the federal government thinks you can afford to pay for college. And I'll tell you this, what the government thinks you can afford to pay and what you think you can afford to pay is never going to be in line with each other. I will say that I will take it even one step further. I have a student right now, actually his father right in the back, that a situation where they may determine they think you can afford to pay this much money, but maybe things have happened within the course of the year that change your financial situation. You can protest what your EFC score is, or you can file, I won't call it a grievance, but you can file a letter with the financial aid office at each school Because every school has the autonomy to change your EFC if they want to. They can say, okay, we really want you, we'll give you this much more money. Or we see that you had financial problems this year that didn't show up on your 2015 tax return. We're going to change your EFC score and give you this much more money. Okay, let's look at a family here. A middle-class family makes $55,000, $15,000 in cash and taxable investments, and they have 2 kids. If they're figuring out the EFC score, it's going to come out to, the federal model is going to come out to $5,128. The institutional models will come out to $3,880. But notice on the student contribution, on the institutional model, they're always going to think the students should contribute some money to the education. So it's always going to be between $1,800 and $2,200 there. So it ends up adding up to a little more on this side, institutional model. Now the schools that follow an institutional model, this is an addition to the FAFSA you have to fill out. These institutional model schools are going to be the most selective schools out there. The Vanderbilts, the Washington and Lees, the Dukes. Those schools are going to require you to fill out an additional form beyond the FAFSA. That institutional model is going to allow them to look at things that the FAFSA doesn't look at. When you're figuring out your financial aid, money that you have in your house or equity you have in your house is not considered in the FAFSA, but it is considered on the institutional model. So these schools basically said to themselves, we think that the people have more money than they're showing up in the FAFSA, so we want to be able to ask more probing questions. Therefore, you may end up having to pay a little more in the institutional model than on the federal model. And I will say this also, if you're in a situation where you are a single parent or you have an ex out there, in the FAFSA it only considers the primary parent's income, and it doesn't make you bring in the other parent's income. Institutional model will make you bring the other parent in. Okay, now let's look at a different family. This family makes $150,000 a year and has $100,000 in taxable investments. Their home equity is worth $200,000. So their EFC score is going to be figured out at $35,000. It's a pretty big difference. So any school you applied to that was not at least $35,000 means you wouldn't qualify for any financial aid at that school. Meaning that all the money you could get would be merit money. And you can see the two numbers aren't too far apart from each other, but you can see once again the institutional model adds in another $1,800 what they think the child should be contributing to the education. And so it's a little bit more for the institutional model. But it's never going to be really far off from each other. You're not going to have a situation normally where the institutional model is like $50,000 and the other one's $20,000. It's usually going to be pretty close to each other. Now, do y'all have any questions about just the way this breaks down? Or the way it would break down?
I got a question for you. I've got twins.
Okay.
That are sophomores now, so does all that factor in?
Twins, I'm glad you asked that. Twins, you can take that number and split it in half.
Okay.
So you get a 2-for-1 deal.
Okay.
So whatever your EFC score comes out at, you can divide that by 2, and that's going to be your real EFC score when you go to school.
And they don't have to go to the same school?
No, it doesn't matter.
Okay.
It doesn't matter. If you have multiples in the school at the same time, it's the same thing. It doesn't have to be twins, but anytime you have more than one kid in college at the same time, it's going to split your EFC score. So it actually, in that instance, it's actually beneficial to have them in school at the same time. Net price calculators is another thing that I think you should look into as well, especially for the students or the parents of older students. The net price calculators, when we start looking at schools, this is going to be school specific. Every school, the Obama administration made it where schools all have to have net price calculators. If you go to the financial aid page of the school, every school has to have a net price calculator. And what it really is, it gives you a chance to see what it's really going to cost you to go to that school. The government determined that it was way too late to wait until February or March or even April to find out what you're going to have to pay to go to school. This gives you like a snapshot look at what it's going to cost you in real dollars to go to that school. So you can start kind of looking at school and going, well, you know, and talking to your son or daughter and say, if you're looking at Wofford, we're looking at paying this much money as opposed to Winthrop, which is half the money. You're going to have to get this much scholarship money or take this amount of loans out because this is what we have saved for you. A lot of parents ask the question, will my assets hurt my financial aid chances? And the answer is yes and no. Depends on the asset you're talking about. But you want to think about it. Savings don't always hurt. I will tell you this, when it comes to FAFSA, any money you have saved in a retirement account is hidden from consideration, so it's protected. I would advise parents, especially as they're leading up to you're in your base year, my two junior parents, you're in your base year, so everything that you do this year is going to affect your financial aid consideration. So your financial aid is a snapshot of the day you apply for it. And so if you are able to put an extra $10,000 or $20,000 into your retirement before you file for that FAFSA, they're not ever, that money is going to be hidden from them for consideration. And so that can make the difference of a couple $1,000s in financial aid consideration. Your FAFSA formula ignores retirement accounts, home equity, and family-owned businesses with less than 100 full-time employees, which would be most businesses. There's also something known as a education savings and asset protection allowance. This is a fancy terminology for they allow you to protect a certain amount of money that they put aside before they consider the rest of your money. And this is based on your age and based on the number of parents in the family. I will say this is an older one, 2016-17. The numbers have changed, almost doubled in some respects. So a 54-year-old two-parent family can probably save closer to $20,000 before that's considered. So let's say you had $100,000 of assets, almost $20,000 of that would be taken aside before they consider the rest of it for financial aid consideration. The CSS profile formula, profile asks for home equity, it asks for adjusted net worth of business or farm, and it also asks for initials from non-custodial parents. So you can see that the CSS profiles can go into a lot more depth in what they're going to ask you. And I want to stop here.